I bet I could predict Taylor's nickname.
The Winter Soldier.
I thought I was going to Taylor Hail Hydra Field or something like that.
That's lame.
Oh, fuck, you
That's
did.
lame.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're going to do that's lame. Yeah, okay. I got nothing, but old make
I got one. I got one.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to, is that right side up? Yeah, okay.
I want to look at this.
Welcome back to the Marvel Retrospective. I am the man who doesn't have a friend who has amnesia, Travis Snail. Also the man who has no fucking nickname right now. The Canadian psychopath, Travis Snail.
Canadian psychopath.
Yeah, shout out to the Gauntlet.
Shout out to the Gauntlet. I am the Trouble Man, Dylan Musk.
I am. This isn't freedom. This is fear. Taylor Field.
Okay, fair enough. If you haven't watched yet or any of the episodes before, we're doing a Marvel retrospective. That means we're watching every movie from Iron Man to Ant-Man. Not the other ones because we just reviewed them recently in anticipation for Infinity War. Infinity War is mere weeks away when this releases. And Dylan and Taylor are laughing about something.
Captain America's he has like a half smirk, half grimace. I'm not sure on the front of the DVD. And I was trying to reenact it because I just thought that's a weird face.
I make that.
It's like strikingly strange. Like that's not. It's because he's trying to do I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit. That's
So
not the face I picture when I think of Captain America. My man.
What did we? Well, you guys, you've been pretty quiet. Other than me, how's it going today? You know.
I'm doing good, man. How's things? How's
Fantastic.
life? That's what I like to hear.
Things are really good. One thing I'm going to bring up is the fact that I was really amped to get this copy because I thought it came with the plush figure inside. It says exclusive collectible offer.
Like you thought it was in this case.
I thought it pops out or something like that. It actually doesn't. You have
Wow.
to send a mail letter in.
And did you do that?
No.
Why not? It's free, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe it might still be active.
Oh, I don't think so. I did.
I'm just kind of shocked that you thought it would be inside that DVD case.
Yeah.
Mostly.
I did that for a G.I. Joe.
Oh, that Bucky one? Look at that. He has troll hair doll things.
I did that for a G.I. Joe tag, and I actually
This is actually an unboxing video. We're not actually reviewing the
I
movie.
just showed off my code.
Oh no!
Oh, no.
I'm sure people are gonna get after that. Didn't know
Cap has a big beard now, apparently.
Okay, let's get into this cast. That's not a big deal.
There's limited quantities, so shit.
Oh, yeah. They probably don't
Oh,
want-
and no, choose one for $34.99 or collect all three
wow.
for $99.
They better be like
Are
20
you
feet tall.
kidding me?
That's really expensive.
Dilmus, you want to save us from this wormhole? And what did you think about Captain America: The Winter Soldier?
Yeah, this is a solid movie. I think it does a lot of really good things in terms of introducing a couple new characters. Well, I guess just introducing Falcon and really establishing him as a part of the universe. And I think it's a really good movie for Black Widow as well. She has a lot of screen time, considering that we haven't seen her ever get a solo movie yet and stuff like that. But one thing that as I was rewatching it this week, I realized I like it and it's good and all, but nothing really stands out to me. Nothing really sets it apart as demonstrating something that's obviously it's really necessary for the story of and the MCU, the whole universe. But I don't know, nothing really stuck out to me as being excellent or I don't know. I think it has just its bottom line is better than some of the other MCU movies Dark World or Iron Man 2 or something like that, but it still feels a little bit of a letdown.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it'll be fun to talk about for sure.
So is this non-spoiler?
Sure, but the movie's been out since 2014. I think if they were following on the Marvel retrospective, I think they've gone to spoilers. So
That's true.
that can be Taylor Field call. I don't think
You can
Well,
spoil away, dude.
This this movie, I think it's a great movie. I really enjoy it. And do I like it better than the first one? I'll let you know at the end of the review.
Oh, keeps you waiting.
But I think it has a lot of surprises. I mean, the whole time wondering about who the Winter Soldier is, I didn't know who that was because I don't follow comic books. So the big reveal, I heard rumors that it was oh maybe it's Bucky.
Rumors.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's Bucky.
I can't remember who told me these rumors, but they were definitely told to me. And so when
at the time.
At the time, yeah, and I don't know if I believed it or not. I was thinking, well, Bucky had the short hair in the first movie. How he's got long hair in this one? It doesn't look like Bucky under the mask. He's got the goggles and stuff.
The goggles, yeah.
sure enough, it was Bucky. And I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool the way they just like wrote him back into the story, and I think the whole film overall, because we'll get more in depth into it, but the whole film overall was just great. Like starting from the beginning and like Black Special Ops Captain America to patriotic freedom Captain America and all that stuff is great. He had a lot of good transitions and developments in this, and there were a lot of moments where I felt like I could have cried and wanted to, but it wasn't enough to make me want to cry. But it definitely was like, if I had a best friend that was like Bucky Barnes and he wanted to kill me, I would definitely cry if I could relate to that, because Captain America was so civil. And Samuel Jackson's great.
Was that supposed to be like a Civil War sort of pun right there?
I didn't intend it, but they can take it as such. So.
Wow. So the story I have with this movie, so this is probably, I think it's the only MCU movie I did not see opening weekend. I was away on a trip. I can't remember when it came out. I think it came out maybe around some of the times of like my WrestleManias or something like that. So I was away, and then all I'd heard about was just like the huge buzz. I also I'm wearing this coat, not to be like Colin Travis. I was just cold, and I'm wearing that. Like, it feels very awkward to wear this big coat during a cast. Like, I'm not trying to send out a douchebag. Like some of the others, a douchebag vibe. Yeah, douche. Anyway, so I'd heard all this hype, and I'd heard like, oh, best comic movie since the Dark Knight, and it's Marvel's Dark Knight, and all of this. No,
people saying that are being very bold.
Go back and we'll look at the reviews. It was very much like that. So I'm a big Captain America fan. I say this, I was before hipsters, everyone got on the bandwagon. Like, I love Cap since I was a kid. So this for me was phenomenal. I love Cap. I'm hearing all this great stuff about the movie. I didn't get to see it until a week later.
One thing, I don't think it's fair to say that's like a hipster thing, because from the perspective of people who didn't read the comics, the character wasn't really that interesting or developed until like Civil War.
I guess, but I feel like everyone retroactively loves Captain America.
Well, because it makes it better in these movies now that you know what happens next and you've seen him develop more.
Yeah. So I went a week without seeing this movie. I seen it, and I was not disappointed. I liked it a lot, but I was nowhere near the level of hype that everyone had for this movie. I thought at the time when this happened, I thought it was predictable. I thought it was. I think that was actually it. I think it's just predictable because the acting's good, the action's good. I like a lot of the score in this, and I'll get into that later. And I think they set well. For me, I was at a disadvantage because if you read comic books, you know Bucky's gonna be Winter Soldier. But for me, it was the fact of I always thought, oh, it's great that we're doing this, but I still felt it was a little early because I feel like Cap 1 didn't do the greatest job of setting them up, or there could have been more. Right. And maybe that's just a Cap 1 thing, so it's hard to hold it against that. But for me, it was just. And I'll do spoilers. It was, okay, obviously the Bucky thing happens. The Hydra thing for me was like, it's a big thing, but it wasn't anything I was surprised about. It's kind of the route I thought we were going, especially the whole first half of the movie is like S.H.I.E.L.D.'s kind of acting a little shady. And it's like, well, and it was like, I couldn't believe it was Hydra. It's like, well, why are they acting so shady, you know? Like, Robert Redford, even though he does some good acting as, what the fuck is his name? The older guy. Is it Pierce or, I forget.
Alexander Pierce.
Alexander Pierce, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it says as Alexander Pierce. I thought his name was as Alexander Pierce or something.
As Alexander.
But him, like, he does a good job acting-wise, but you always felt like he was going to be bad. You knew Sam Jackson wasn't dead. So there's all this stuff. And
it's a pretty, like, basic, like, non-compelling character, too.
Yeah. I'll counter you a little bit there. But then this is a movie now. After I felt like that, the hype went away. I bought it. I watched it. And legitimately, even when I watched it again this week, I like it more and more every time. The action's great. Chris Evans, it's maybe, like, I always think about this, but it's one of his best performances in the role, and I'll talk about that later. It might be Scarlett Johansson's best role as well. She's so charismatic. At first I thought it was Civil War when we saw that again, but when I watched this again, I'm saying again a lot. When I watched this, maybe it's because the screen time she gets, but it feels like her character has, like, a journey and an arc, which is good.
That's always an element, is that she's kind of always... I guess Avengers, she gets quite a bit of screen time, but still, in general, feels like she's kind of below the other people in terms of importance, right?
Yeah, 100%. So, and I like Winter Soldier and what they do with them, even though, like I said, with Cap and Cap 1, I think the foundation wasn't the strongest. I think even stuff like that flashback helps when they put that in there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've just liked it more and more. It's a great spy thriller. From the moment, maybe 10 minutes in, you feel like something is wrong in the movie, not in a way like it's a bad movie. You just feel like something's going on and what's going to happen, you know? And because every moment they're kind of subverting your expectations, like, okay, Black Widow might be good or bad, and Pierce might be good or bad, and then like, is S.H.I.E.L.D. after Cap because they're good and they think he's bad, or are they bad and he's good, you know? So, yeah, I really enjoy the movie. We're going to get into it, but yeah, it's a movie that I've enjoyed every time I've watched it more and more. Love the ending. I think they introduced Falcon in like a kind of hamstring way. Like, I think that's been the thing that stands out for me. It's just he meets this guy in the park and it's just a coincidence. He's like a super badass like Falcon flying dude, you know. Like, I get he's a pilot, but like pilots don't just come around like that, you know. So
fair enough, I guess.
So yeah, where did we want to start with Captain America: Winter Soldier?
Well, you know, we'll start right there because I like the introduction with Falcon. It's something that I've only seen this movie a couple of times, but I kind of forgot how. Or, like, really when he enters the MCU and, like, how they develop him at the start. And I like that opening scene with him, like, running laps and Cap just keeps, like, you know, beating him every time on your left. And I like how they call back to that at the end when he's in the hospital bed. We're going right to the end of the movie here when Cap's in the hospital bed. And then he wakes up and Falcon's sitting right next to him. He says, on your left. So I like that little callback. But I thought it was fun. Like, it maybe is a little coincidental that they're both just, like, in the same place, I guess, in the first place. But I think their conversation it seemed really genuine. Like they just kind of became instant buddies, and they both were, you know, because they're both just like charismatic and like kind people. So it kind of makes sense. Mm. And I like that. You know, Falcon like recommends. I keep calling him Falcon. What's his actual name?
Sam Wilson.
Sam Wilson. That's a pretty bland name. So I'm gonna keep calling him Falcon. I like that he recommends like, you know, that soundtrack that he should listen to. I also listened to it because I was curious, you know, and it's pretty good. I don't know if that would be like the one album I would say you got to listen to if someone had been sleeping for 70 years. Yeah. But I like the banter between them, and I think, I don't know, it kind of just establishes them as like buddies right away. So yeah, I think I disagree with you. I liked his introduction.
I just don't like. I'm not a big fan of coincidences in movies, and I think that's the biggest thing where it's like.
I think because it's right at the start of the movie. I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't really feel that way to me, and like I don't know where they are exactly, but it seems like a place that like
DC. I think they are.
But like that particular building they're next to is like, you know, like some headquarters for spy people and such. So I guess it sort of makes sense that they, you know, would both be in that area.
Yeah, I think
it's a beautiful place to run. Yeah. If I lived there, I'd run there too.
The other thing that's tough for me is later on when they gotta hide somewhere and they want to be off the grid, and I think that's where this and Iron Man 3 sometimes get in a little bit of trouble of. I think that's why you see a lot more MC movies have multiple Marvel characters, because I'm fine with the ending, but when they're like, we really need a place to hide.
Go to his place.
You call Tony on that one, you know? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like you go to this guy, Sam Wilson's house, whose place could be fucking bugged. Like, I know they don't have any idea how they would know each other, but still, it's like, I don't know. Like, they have people falling Cap all the time. He went to that army's, like, kind of PTSD meeting, right? So it's like all it took was one guy to see, oh, he's talking to that guy, and then they're hiding out, and then they just knock on Falcon's door, and it's over for him, you know. Mm-hmm. So I like Falcon enough in this movie, but I never felt like his addition was that warranted. I think it's paid off down the line, but I think this movie for me, I can take or leave Falcon. Even Anthony Mackie, I think he does a good job. I don't think he gets any great lines or anything like big arc or anything like that.
I look at him as like a character that's intentionally supposed to be smaller. Obviously, he's not the headliner of the movie or anything, and he only shows up every once in a while, usually if it's related to Cap. So I think from that perspective, I don't know, I just think he's fun. I like seeing him fly around in his cheesy little goggles, and then later in Civil War, we see his like drone thing that he had. I don't know, he's a cool dude.
Yeah,
I think he's fun.
Do you think he's a cool dude, Taylor Field? Somehow we just talked about Falcon. We transitioned and just talked about Falcon, but
he you have the two head honchos, Captain America and Iron Man, and you have their trusty sidekicks, War Machine and Falcon. You know, Falcon's very cool and everything. I think he's neat, but he's not a War Machine. And War Machine is just a badass. I'm sorry. He you know, if it was like, I don't know, I think I like War Machine in a sense because he looks like Captain America, but he's his own thing. It's just a badass, and we put the two of them together like an Iron Man 2 and in the robot scene. It's just so glorious.
I think I like Falcon more than War Machine.
Really?
I think I'd go with Falcon.
Who would you go with?
This is an important debate. Actually.
War Machine, 100%.
Really?
The costume.
But
he's
just a discount Iron Man.
Yeah, but like I like his personality better.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
You're always trash talking his personality.
No. Hang on. If you're taking overall because they're the same
Okay,
character.
you're taking the guy.
I love
first
Terrence
Iron Man.
Howard,
Yeah.
and I do like. I think in Iron Man or Avengers 2, he has maybe one of the best lines of the movie, which we'll get into when he tells a joke, and then.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it.
We'll get there.
But yeah, War Machine, and I feel like War Machine for some reason is more important to Downey or Tony than Cap. Like Falcon is the Cap. It's just the way the movies are, but it's just because like with Cap, it feels like okay, there's maybe Winter Soldier, and then there's Iron Man, and then it feels like it's Falcon. Where War Machine feels like he's on par.
maybe think about Civil War. Spoilers to Civil War, but you can deal with it. Like that, the scene when War Machine goes down is like a lot more emotional than I think if you had the same thing, but with Falcon instead.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Captain America wouldn't be able to get to him in time.
Wow.
I was curious if you'd throw that reality. He has his bike. His bike's pretty fast. He's as fast as a rocket-powered man. Probably not.
At the end of the day, though, I won't lie. Falcon.
Good. Don't lie to us.
I don't want to lie to you guys, but Falcon he's an interesting character. He's cool. I don't think it was cheesy the way he met, Captain America.
I don't know if I said cheesy.
I'd say if I was like
Taylor
a military
cheesy.
dude,
It's a different type of cheesy.
if I was a military dude, I'd be probably running around there. I'm sure it's a very common spot for all these paratroopers.
I'm sure I would be running around.
Yeah, I think, it just how it kickstarts us in that scene in the movie, it's something that you can easily overlook. I think if it happened 20 to a half an hour in, to the movie, there's already a bit of story established, I would have found, okay, like, Captain America's already been going through his troubles, and now he happens to be running, and they're just introducing Sam Wilson just like this. That would have been like, okay, a little bit over the top, connect the dots here, that's pushing it. But the way as the film introduces it the way it does, then I feel like that just more naturally kind of forms the connection and a better introduction for Falcon, as opposed to shoving him in later.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Let's talk about the other sidekick there, Black Widow. I'm a big fan of her in this movie. I think once again it starts off right where she's on this mission, it seems like everything's cool, and then midway through the mission you find out that like she's on another mission, and already fits with Black Widow the character, but the way she just kind of takes no crap from Steve as he's questioning her, like she feels very independent the whole movie, and even when later on when Fury's dead, or like fake dead, they have that like fight over like the little USB stick or whatnot, and like you can tell she really feels like she's in the right. And obviously I don't think in the point in the movie, even the first time I watched it, I felt like, oh, she might be bad, but I think they do a good job of trying to play that up and try to say, oh, could he really trust
I never
her?
got those vibes actually. I've never thought about that.
I guess it's just when they're talking about like, oh, like can I trust you or can I trust you, and then
yeah.
I like that they're kind of, and that's where I think I end up liking the performance the most out of all the other ones, because you get to see them with their backs put against the wall, and they really have to learn how to trust each other. We got Steve, who like hasn't really trusted anybody because like all his friends are dead. Like he makes that joke, so it's like he's still just trying to figure his way out in the world. And Natasha, other than maybe Hawkeye, in the movies is kind of portrayed as like this lone wolf, right? And I think in this movie you see her not be that lone wolf. You kind of see her, she was a teammate in Avengers, but that more felt like this is for the mission, where this felt like, hey, it's us, like, to the bitter end. Like, we're going to try to figure this out and make sure we're both okay, and then go. Even when she goes out of her way to get that file for him, it feels like, even though they're not romantically linked, that there's a connection there now, where I don't think with Black Widow, like, you look at Black Widow and Iron Man, there's no connection there. Avengers, you have the connection with Hawkeye, but Hawkeye's so loosely in that movie where it's kind of like, man, like, this is, I think, the most you see that character grow. So I think ScarJo is great in this movie.
And their banter a lot is really fun to hear, like, how she's kind of loosely setting him up with, I don't know, whoever she can find to set him up with. I like that they play that joke out a few times. And yeah, a lot of great action scenes, fight scenes with her, and just shows like how badass of a fighter she is, and how just all like the cool gadgets and whatnot that she has is always fun to see.
You briefly mentioned this scene, and when I was watching Winter Soldier earlier, I thought, okay, like he's Captain America, but this is crossing the line. Now, he got the little thumb drive, and you know, he got the brilliant idea, and this will lead to another scene. Actually, I'll tell you the scene afterwards because the other scene.
I'm also
required
very
in
confused.
depth. Okay, so you know when he gets a thumb drive and he goes back to the vending machine? I actually thought this was funny when you see his face in the reflection. It's the most defeated, upset look you'll ever see Captain America have. His face is. It's so
Would you
good.
compare it to his face on the cover of the
Oh,
movie?
it's better.
I have to go back and look at it.
Yeah, I can't recall it.
It's such a good facial expression.
Was that a good move putting in there? Like, I know Natasha, story-wise, was the only one that did figure out, but really, I was worried the whole time that was in there. Like, all it takes is a few people to buy that exact item, and then they have all these SHIELD secrets.
And that's what I was leading into next. Well, they wouldn't have the SHIELD secrets because
SHIELD and Hydra.
what is his name? Zemo
Zola.
Zemo's
later.
Zemo, yeah.
He's the guy that tweaks around with it. But anyway, so that's what I want to know. How did frickin' Captain America manage to stealthily sneak it behind the Hubba Bubba? Two pieces of Hubba Bubba.
Big plot hole.
Super soldier serum. No, that's one of the things. Is strength, huge speed,
You
and
can put your
ability.
arms through vending machines without breaking them.
Yes. It was on like
maybe
fine print.
Maybe the employee was like restocking it, and he just like stealthily snuck in there. Actually, that doesn't make sense because that thing was pretty close to empty.
Maybe there was a guy restocking it. That sounds familiar.
That's not in the movie, I don't think. But
the lead scene.
It is. Yeah, how could they take that out of the movie? It breaks the whole plot. I don't think that is actually the solution because I think the vending machine was like pretty empty when they zoom in on it anyway. So I don't know. It's probably not the solution, but they could have had that in there.
What were you gonna say?
Well, what do we think about? Because we haven't really talked about the story. What do we think about the whole? Obviously, that's like that twist of this, but the SHIELD being Hydra and kind of the implosion of SHIELD, like everything you know. And I think one thing I will say, they do a good job of building up that Cap. Like I think. I can't. Oh, maybe it's Crossbones that says that. I don't know, but someone says, "Oh no, I think it's Black Widow." It says like, "Oh, finding out like you died for nothing." I think for him, that's a big. I think they hit it out of the park with how important SHIELD is as just an idea to Captain America, and just the idea of like America, where it does feel like you slowly start to see like, okay, in Avengers 2 is more about like, okay, we gotta stop this robot, but continue films, mainly Civil War, you see that's why he's not so glued to the system anymore. You know, before it was always, and you see him even before the Hydra thing happens, like he's questioning like, oh, we didn't do it this way, and you guys do it like this, and like with the Hellcarriers.
Yeah,
like,
that scene with Fury down in there when they're just like kind of discussing their different ideals and how Cap just is not taking his shit even then.
And then this on top of that, it's just another thing like that makes, even if Civil War, it's hard to talk about because there's so many movies together that it doesn't feel like a trilogy, but really if you just try to ignore everything else and you just watch Captain America 1, 2, 3, it does fit and it does work. You'd be like, who the fuck are all the other people? But if you just watch these three, it fits with his story, right? And I think they do a good job with that. I love the whole, like, people you don't know, or, like, we've talked about that with Skrulls coming, about, characters we know could potentially be bad. Yeah, it's just the mayor or whatever, the senator, but it still is like a nice little thing to have him as a Hydra agent, or that guy who's working with S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, a few characters that we know, right, to make
one thing I will say, though, is I always found it really awkward when they just, like, tilt over each other. It just feels so out of place. Because everything else is just like a very regular business sort of meeting, and then they just quickly drop that sneaky Hail Hydra.
Yeah.
So that kind of took me out of it.
That scene when that happened, because I was like, oh, I recognize that guy. He's a guy I don't like from Iron Man 2. And then
the great Gary Shandling.
When he drops that line, I remember freaking out in the theater. I was like, no. Are these guys all in on this? Like, it was mind-boggling. I want to dive into the other thing. I'm just going to cover Natasha real quick.
Okay.
She was absolutely fantastic in this movie. I think, her shade and shadiness that she was throwing at people.
Shadiness.
Yeah.
I like that.
She was very mystical and whimsical in this film. You didn't really know what she was up to. I think, I like you said, I definitely liked how she was trying to set up the captain with the ladies. And I think that she was definitely very cocky and chill. And I have to say that I think she had a good moment with Captain America when they were making out on the escalator. I think that was a good build-up for development for Captain America, even because she calls him out on it. She's like, "Yeah, have you not kissed anyone?" He's like, "No."
I don't know if that was good development. I think
it is good because by the time he gets to Susan Carter, I mean,
Sharon Carter.
Sharon Carter, that's the one. By the time he gets to
Here we
Sharon
go again.
Carter,
Here we go again.
by the time he gets to Sharon,
Alec Trevian.
by the time he gets to Sharon Carter, at least then he's not a bad kisser. He's decent. All because of
Okay, he
Black
had
Widow.
one kiss with Black Widow.
Yeah, it was a long kiss, and it.
That you think that's all the practice he needs? Now he's good to go.
I think it might have been his
One kiss
only
with Black Widow is probably worth 1,000. I don't know.
1,000 kisses.
I guess so.
Probably.
Yeah. You just crunch the math quickly in your head. Is that what happened?
No, I was
Yeah.
thinking. Yeah. Okay. And what were we talking about next?
We're talking
Oh,
about
Shield.
Yes.
Talk about
Shield
what we were
Hydra.
talking about, then you just hijacked it back to Black Widow.
Yes.
Yeah, the Shield Hydra dynamic. And stuff.
Legit, that was so mind-boggling that happened because I wasn't expecting. I was trying to figure out who would be bad. I'm like, okay, well, clearly, when Samuel
I'm
Jackson,
fucking scared.
Samuel Jackson is in Captain America's apartment, right? And he's like, my wife kicked me out, and Captain America believes him. He flicks the light on and is like, I didn't know that. He's so gullible.
I don't really.
I didn't know you had a wife.
Do you remember that? And he's like,
I guess
well,
so.
oh.
I feel like you very rarely laugh this hard at something, so I'm just shocked that this is what is.
It's just Captain
Causing
America's
that.
I'm
character.
kind of on Team Taylor with that one. You know what? That's a good point.
Yes, I did. I guess it didn't stick out to me as much as you guys.
Yeah, it's just that part where he's like, oh, my wife kicked me out, and he turns on the light and he's like, well, you don't tell me these things, and Samuel Jackson's like, there's a lot I don't tell, or I got a lot of secrets or something like that. And he turns the light back off.
Yeah, I know. That was kind of weird. When you turn it on and off, it's like they're definitely gonna know something's up. If someone's watching you, like, why are you gonna keep talking in the dark?
Yeah, why you turn the light back off?
Yeah.
But it's weird why Bucky actually took such a long time to shoot him. Clearly he knew he was in the chair. I mean, all that changed was him getting a chest shot from a headshot, but...
And then the viewer gets information.
Yeah.
As the characters talk.
But yeah...
I can forgive that one for the sake of us actually getting that scene of those two talking.
Right on.
It's like you're completely wrong.
Yeah, the whole thing and the reveal of it being Hydra, I actually love that because, I like conspiracies, and I like conspiracies. I mean, conspiracies at the end of the day aren't always a good thing. They can be a brutal, scary thing. And
quite harmful.
I think this is Disney's way of throwing, some light onto the real world and, open your eyes, young generation kind of thing. So.
I think they just kind of want to make a spy thriller. I don't know if they're like, hey, young generation, look out!
Well,
They like to cover multiple tracks at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They think ahead. The Shield Hydra thing, I think it's a good build up. For me, it's not that interesting. Again, rewatching it, just because I've always kind of found the Shield stuff a bit dry, and then Hydra as well as essentially just Shield, but evil.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've never really found myself too invested in I guess those organizations. Although it's obviously incredibly important for the MCU and what's going on and how there is I guess it's not really a government agency. I guess I don't know, sort of is, but it's important to have an aspect where there's a team of some people that know exactly what's going on or are planning things for the general public, because obviously the Avengers and such, that's not really what they're responsible for. They're just the muscle, and then obviously that kind of changes as we get into the Civil War era. And one thing to mention as well is how important this movie really is, as a trilogy, as you were saying, because when we went and saw Civil War, we saw it early, and I hadn't seen this movie at the time, and I don't know why I didn't decide to watch it before going to see Civil War, but I don't know, that was what happened. And I was quite confused on a few things in Civil War. It was still a fantastic movie, and I loved it, but I was definitely missing a few pieces of the puzzle. And yeah, obviously this movie goes into all of that. I mean, it's it's a movie with a plot, so and from that point of view, it really is fitting to have all that Shield and Hydra stuff in there. It's just not something that I love watching over and over again. I don't know. That's why I say nothing is outstanding for me, because I do like this movie, and I've seen it 2 or 3 times now, and I I don't really feel like it does get better every time. I feel like it kind of just stays the same, or maybe I'm just like a little bit bored by like aspects of it again watching it.
I just think I think it moves at a good pace. I think I love the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I love like it's just quick. It's Captain America in his his glory. Like things are going like not well, but he's trying to readjust to the world. And then you quickly get into this. Okay, Taylor, I love this. Some conspiracy theories going on. Doesn't know who to trust. And then I feel like there is a lot of like action. There's a lot of a good pace of they're moving from location to location really quick. Once there's that cool down of okay, Fury's alive and Hydra has shield and everything like that. I guess for me it's just the pacing of it. That's where the verse for me. I never feel like I'm leaning back going like and then once the Bucky thing happens, I think that's like tackled well. I think the Pierce stuff. I like the Pierce stuff because even though I thought he was gonna be bad, I like the whole I'm gonna find out who killed my friend Captain America. Like they lay enough breadcrumbs that you could maybe buy that okay maybe there's a chance he's good, but yeah for me it's just the pacing that keeps the movie that keeps me being able to rewatch it and like it more and more every time. And the stuff that happens, I think the stuff with obviously we're gonna get into it, but the stuff with Cap and Bucky is really really good and really well done, and they make Winter Soldier super scary in this movie. Like I wish we got almost a little bit more because.
And even for someone brainwashed, they give him layers.
Yeah. And I think in Civil War he gets to be a little scary, but there's nothing more scary when he has like the makeup and that mask. I love that mask. I hate that he doesn't wear it anymore.
It is fucking sweet. Yeah, I forgot how cool it is.
And that's where I'll fight you on the score as well too. Like I know I'm doing all over, but when he appears, they have like the shrieking sound.
I do have that in my notes. Is I love the like distortions that play anytime Bucky shows up.
Yeah, and then at the end too, there's the scene where Bucky is beating down Cap and everything like that. They play this like really good emotion. It's I think it's called Till the End of the Line. I think I listen to it a lot, but like it's,
I think I listen to it.
I
just admit it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say
you
that.
Listen to it every day forever.
Yeah, forever. But no, it's a really good emotional track, and it adds the scene really well. And there's parts of the movie where it's just purely quiet in that moment with that score playing. So I'm a big fan of the score in this movie. For some scenes. I think the whole way through there's some kind of, some generic action spy stuff, but there's certain moments in this movie where I love the score, maybe similar to a Hulk sort of thing, there's certain tracks that just stand out.
That grip you, yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the action then. I think I like that, the freighter, I don't know, the boat fight scene, like the one that kind of at the start of the movie.
GSP too.
They were French terrorists.
They sure were. Are you related to any of them? Or?
No, I can understand what some of them were saying.
That's good.
The subtitles helped.
The subtitles, that's probably why you understood. But I think, it's pretty classic for comic book movies in general to have like an action scene within your, first 20 or 30 minutes. It's kind of, part of the formula.
Yeah.
But, for having that in this one, it's pretty fun. I think it does show, like, obviously this is like more of a spy movie as opposed to just straight action. And I think it conveys that. One thing that I don't know if we've ever really mentioned it, but like the sound effects whenever Cap throws his shield, really solid. Like
right.
they really nailed that. I mean, it would be quite noticeable if they didn't have that spot on, but it is something worthy of note. And I like one move Cap does. He holds up his shield in one hand, and then with his other hand, he like punches the shield and just bops the guy out. So that was fun as well. Yeah.
That fight with that French Algerian dude was pretty cool.
Yeah, he kind of gets bopped though. Like it was
GSP. That's what
very
one-sided.
He's
one of the best fighters in the world. The UFC fighter.
He's
GSP.
actually a real fighter.
How would I know that?
I don't know. He's famous enough. He's Canadian too. I thought you might know.
I know.
No.
I watch Melee video game fighting.
I like the little
interesting to me.
gentleman's. I like the little gentleman's like agreement of like to drop the shield, and Cap takes his helmet off and everything like that, and then Cap still kind of tears that.
Womps him. It's not close at all.
Yeah.
He even kicks him like 20 feet through a door.
Yikes.
Pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
That whole intro scene with the fight scene of him storming the boat was very cool. Skull and Bones got like a little bit of a spotlight there.
Skull and Bones?
Skull and Bones, yeah.
Is that a name of a character or something?
Yeah, he's the bad dude in Civil War at the beginning. He's the guy who betrays him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where was I going? Yeah,
I'm so sorry. There was something about Skull and Bones.
Yeah, Skull and Bones. So it was cool to see him like help out Captain America by shooting that one guy that snuck up on Cap like that. But that whole intro scene was fantastic. The fight and everything. Like, is he wearing a parachute? Nope. And he's just going down and
Just
he
dives
lands in
in.
the water. So
Imagine if he like didn't hit the water and he just landed on the boat and just got squashed instantly.
it would have been on target.
The movie
so
would have been, movie would have been a lot shorter. That's for
it
sure.
would have been a lot shorter. I think as for other fight scenes, I mean, the Winter Soldier ones were awesome. I have to say, like Sam Jackson's scene, that was
The car
absolutely
chase scene,
fantastic.
yeah.
The car chase. I love it when he's talking to the AI and the AI is like, yeah, the police detect no units in this area, and he's like assessing the situation, and what happens next? Yeah, there's a very funny part. It was all funny parts, and I can't remember it, but it was Sam Jackson being Sam Jackson about it. It was great.
That scene's cool to see because I mean I can't really think of any like I guess in Avengers 1 there's a couple scenes with Fury shooting some guns and stuff, but he has very little action scenes. Obviously he's more there as like he's really important to the world or the MCU, so he has like more scenes as a personality, but it is cool to see those action scenes every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was definitely a bit of a cop-out the way they had him escape from the Winter Soldier, because clearly his laser tool, clearly you could see in the ground, he carved through complete concrete and cement. Like, obviously this tool is just to get out of anywhere for free.
It's a pretty strong tool, but I feel like if anyone is going to have a tool that strong, it would be Nick Fury. That's why it's not that strange to me. I guess I don't know exactly where he went. I mean, you can assume, as per movie cliches, that he dipped into the sewer and then fled that way.
If he's cutting through down like the cement tunnel,
he did it pretty fast.
It's like
too,
when you're cutting out blocks to make an igloo, you cut around the edge and then you lift up the thing. So where did he lift out the cement? Did the cement just disappear? Like, he's obviously probably at like 2 feet down.
I think he just like evaporated it pretty much.
But then he's probably like 3 feet down in the hole, still carving. So Winter Soldier could have got him. I mean, there's no way he's that fast of a carver.
I can't fight you anymore on this.
Travis?
No, couldn't be that fast as a car. Well, I just always assumed it was a lightsaber from his Mace Windu days. So
nice.
That would get him through. I think that's what people call movie magic. I think just one of those moments. Yeah, it happens really fast, and literally they're right there, and then he just cuts and he's gone. So I don't know. It's just that technology's that good, and maybe he should use that against Thanos and then Civil War.
I quite enjoy his comeback when the helicopter lands and he steps off, and he's just the music's playing. And it's like, at first you're like, who is this guy showing up? And it's like, oh, it is a badass Nick Fury, and his friends like, what? You're alive? I don't know if he says it exactly like that. But.
I think they say it like exactly.
You're alive, Nick Fury?
They're not that surprised. I get the next scene is when Cap goes to the museum and he's kind of reminiscing on the old days. Back when he was not frozen the first time.
Yeah.
And then that's followed up with him going to see the big Peggy in the hospital. So just a little bit of emotional building up of Captain America and reminders of like his roots in the first movie and stuff like that. So that's nice to see.
Taylor, you like the Peggy scene?
I do, but I think it's
for some reason I just had a feeling there's something. It's such a great scene.
It's his lost love. It's the love he's never gonna get, never gonna have. And I feel bad for a man. He found his possible
Peggy.
love. Yeah, Peggy Carter, and so now he's gonna settle for her niece. So.
Okay, that's not even in this movie, and just the way you said that sounds super creepy. Settle for his niece.
They set them up in the movie.
They
when
do,
he's
but
in the hallway, and she's like, "Don't stay too far away," or whatever.
But she reveals that she's an agent and that she was likely just flirting with him as like a thing.
Yeah,
it's kind of not the case.
And he didn't know that was her niece at that moment. It's just this hot name.
True, but all that also leads me to my next point. I feel like the niece actually was like being disrespectful to Peggy, because when Captain America walks by, she's like, "Well, that's just my aunt. She's kind of insomniac. Like, she's just kind of being like kind of rude about it." So.
You've had quite a few problems with stuff that is very strange to me. In this cast, like, I think she's just trying to make conversation with Cap and everything like that.
But she's bad talking her aunt, who had a love life with Captain America.
But Cap doesn't know that. Like,
yeah, but she does.
Yeah, I guess maybe she just got nervous. She's trying to think on her feet, or she's trying to lay in bread.
That girl would definitely have to reinvent her strategy if she was to flirt with Taylor Field. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not hard to flirt with me.
I'm
very oblivious sometimes.
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 I'm very oblivious sometimes.
Did you say everything you wanted to say on the pacing and everything like that, Taylor?
Did she like lose her mind halfway through?
Well, she didn't lose. What do you mean?
Because she was like,
She has like dementia.
you're
or
alive.
something.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't actually pick up.
Did you
on
think she
that.
was just like trolling him or something?
Well, I thought she was just having.
I
another
think she has
realization.
Alzheimer's or something like that. So that happens quite a bit with the people that have that, where they'll have a natural conversation with you, and they might slip back to old times, or they might slip back to like something that just happened a second ago. Like I have a grandmother that asked me like 10 times like how my job's going.
And that really helps to build like Captain America, 'cause that's like his only person that he knows from back in the day, and he can't like truly have like a meaningful conversation with her, or like a progression, or they can't get further as like a connection between two people, because she can only go so far before it kind of resets. It's very sad.
Okay, because my grandma, she has dementia, and I just like how she acts like she's very forgetful. But in that scene, I just thought like she was just coming to this whole realization of like sometimes like when you're out on like a great day and you're having a great time. And
obviously it's not like as snappy as that.
Yeah,
like a real life scenario.
You're aware, but it just hits you all of a sudden. You take it in and you just express. And I thought that's what she was doing with him. I had no idea that she was actually ill. So
actually ill.
But yeah, I think that's a great scene. It really shows Cap. Like I think that's his best like acting scene maybe in all these movies, because he's just like he shows a good range of emotion there. He's kind of like a little comedic. You can tell he's really torn about his job. But then just the second like she does snap back and she's like, "Oh, Steve, you're here." Just when he just drops that line like, "Oh, I couldn't leave my best gal behind," or whatever. It's just like, oh, like your heart melts. And like I think this is the movie where you got Cap 1 and Avengers, but for me this is the movie where he really becomes Captain America. And I think that's why I like, because you get that strong, sensitive, do-gooder guy, but also the badass. Like this is the movie that put him in the forefront of like, man, Cap can really kick some ass. Where I feel like sometimes he's like, oh, he's a great member of the team, he's a leader, but this felt like, okay, he can just mess people up. So I want to talk about Pierce, because Dylan, I think you said a little bland, or a little meat and potatoes, or just potatoes. What do you think about why?
The reason that I think he's bland is because I don't really have much to say. He's just like a very basic villain in that sense. Like he's just like a businessman with a plan, and he's kind of just like deceptive, a little bit shady, but there's really no personality behind him, and I think that's to me why I don't find him that interesting, and I would say he's a pretty weak villain. Obviously, it's like I was saying earlier, in that SHIELD and Hydra are very important to the MCU and establishing this world, but him as, I guess, being the face of Hydra for this particular movie didn't really do it for me a whole lot. Although, I mean, it's a mixed bag, because it kind of, he does like get across, like what Hydra is and what they're doing, and establishes why it is important for the MCU, but him as an individual wasn't anything that stands out for me.
Yeah. And
I maybe it's probably different, because this movie, obviously, you kind of have like two like opposing forces, villains, and they're kind of split up in that Pierce is kind of like the brains, or like the guy with the power behind it, whereas Bucky is like the force, and the guy that actually has powers. So when you split those two up, each of them are only going to have half. Obviously, Bucky's a bit different because he has ties to the main character in other ways. That's what I'd say on Pierce.
Yeah, maybe it's just.
What do you like about him?
I guess it could honestly
I can see why you like him.
It could be you can see why.
Yeah.
Then why are you asking? No. I think it is honestly one. Robert Redford. He's one of the greatest actors of all time.
Whoa, bold claim.
He's won many Academy Awards. He's a big star. I think he brings a lot of gravitas to the role, and I think he is. Like I said, I didn't believe he was ever good the first time I saw it, but I think he almost convinces you in those scenes where I like the exchange that he has with Captain America, because it doesn't feel like a classic bad guy like trying to cover his tracks. It does feel like he almost doesn't trust Cap as well. That's why I like for the first like 25 minutes in the conspiracy theory part, you just think that, oh, SHIELD could just think Cap's gone rogue, right? It's until you see Pierce shoot his mate, where you're like, okay, no, like, this guy's he's a little shady.
Quite shady.
Yeah, like, he's doing some not so good stuff. So, I think I like the confidence that he brings in the scene at the very end with all those world leaders, even when he's on the back foot. He always feels like he's in control, and he kind of is because he has those pins and everything like that. But he is just always trying to be like, oh, she's like, I'm gonna expose all your secrets. He's like, oh, you expose yours too. Like he always has an answer for everything. Yeah, it doesn't work out for him because he just gets shot and he literally gets glass in his ass. But I think that he was a good mouthpiece for Hydra. I remember when I saw this, I did really think. And like, there's theories about this that he was going to be Red Skull. So I think that was another thing that I didn't like.
Interesting.
When I saw it the first time because I was really disappointed because I wanted Red Skull. Well,
you wanted a real Red Skull.
Well, people kind of thought maybe this is the way they bring him back. They can age him and not make Hugo Weaving come back. And like, because Red Skull always has that thing, right, where he like has fake skin on. Yeah. So it's like, oh, this could be a way, or I don't know, like
that'd be an interesting world to live in.
Yeah, like it would have been a good ploy, and that they could have just killed him off there if they don't want to bring him back. Then there he was dead. So. I don't know, but I think he worked as the opposing force because you kind of have like Hydra as like a unit, like just the faceless, like your Crossbones or just guys after Captain America. You have Winter Soldier, who is like this very personal tie, like personal ties, like personal connection, personal rival to Captain America. And then you have Pierce, who's just a driving force as far as he's just the head of all this. He's your classic, guy behind the desk sort of deal. So I like that we get like all these different versions of villains, and I think that works out for the movie well because you don't always feel like it's... Winter Soldier is around quite a bit, but there's times where he just goes... Before the Bucky reveal, he goes missing quite a bit, and I think that's good because then anytime Winter Soldier's there, you snap into, oh man, something's gonna happen, and I think that's... The score, it complements that well, but yeah, I really like Pierce. I don't know if we do our rankings, if we do the film rankings, I don't know how high he is, but I think he's mid-tier because he's not bad, and...
Well, it's hard to rank him because he's not the only villain of the movie, right?
And we don't get enough of him, but we still get a little bit more of, okay, he obviously believes in Hydra's morals, and he's doing it in a sense that Red Skull kind of feels like he just wants to take over the world, where he feels like this is going to actually help the world. Yeah, it's not...
Distorted world.
Yeah, it's super distorted. It's not even like Myers-Briggs, like with Killmonger and Black Panther. It's like, oh, this is a real thing. Pierce is not. Like, it's just like, killing just a bunch of people for, like, no reason because they might be threats. Like, that feels, like, super shady. So, yeah, I like him. I guess for the role that they wrote and what they had for this character, I like what he brought to it, and it was a good performance, so... Yeah.
Shoutouts to Pierce. Yep. Where do you stand on the matter, Mr. Field?
He, I when I think about him, I feel like, that scene when his what do you call it? Mate.
Why'd she come back? Why'd she come back?
Yeah, why'd she come back? It just goes to show when you want to do a little bit more for your job and go over the top.
This is true.
You actually stroll into the Winter Soldier thing there, and you get fucking shot.
And the Winter Soldier.
That's like the hyperbolized. Like that's the maximum level of that. Like,
the Winter Soldier didn't even shoot her. Pierce did.
No, he didn't have a problem with it. But Pierce did, obviously.
My problem is with that scene. So it's a great reveal, and it's a fun, like, classic bad guy thing, and that I think is a good way to show. Okay, he's full on a bad guy because he kills this innocent woman and killed.
You don't know that she's innocent.
Kill blood.
Kill
blood. Kill blood.
In cold blood. Fine, maybe she's not innocent. I don't know. Maybe she's been stealing Pierce's stuff for years.
She's the queen of Hydra.
Oh yeah, she's Thanos' plan.
She's Thanos. She's really Thanos.
I'm gonna get him back. So my problem is, we see later on Winter Soldier. Anytime they get him, and we see this in Civil War 2, they bring him to this laboratory. They always strap him up and they kind of give him this mission, or they fry him, everything like that. Why is he just sitting in Pierce's house like unannounced too? Like Pierce is like, he's really surprised. It makes no sense because it feels like in this movie Pierce is kind of.
What do they talk about in that scene again?
You don't get to see it because. I think they're just kind of like, oh yeah, we have like business to take care of, and then Rosalina or whatever her name is, something
Rosita.
Rosita? Is it actually Rosita?
I guess Rosita.
No, I don't.
Pull up like the IMDb.
But either way, like they just kind of go like, oh, we have stuff to take care of, like nothing too official, and then she walks back in and he shoots her. I just don't know why Winter Soldier was there. Because
I didn't think about that, but it doesn't really make sense.
And I think that's the movie trying to fuck with you because they're trying to make you think that this Winter Soldier is. Like, he's somebody making his own choices, right? Like, he's not a hired gun. Where then later on, an hour later, it's revealed, this guy has no idea what he's doing. Yeah, he's brainwashed. But I think they do that on purpose to try to steer you away from a Bucky thing or something like that. But I think in the long run, when you look back on it, it's like, that doesn't make sense why Winter Soldier is sitting there and Pierce has no idea. Because that makes it feel like Winter Soldier was making a choice against Pierce on his own. And that feels like that could not be happening in this moment.
I wonder, too, if he's showed up at Pierce's house before and Rosa Maloney was not actually the
Rose
first
Maloney.
assistant. And there has been a long line of them that keep getting killed whenever Bucky
Or-
fucking shows
Wow.
up out of
He's like,
nowhere.
God damn it.
And Pierce is like, God damn it, I gotta kill another one. This one was great. She knew
Or
exactly
if
how
you
to
take
iron my shirt.
if you take Pierce out, maybe Rosita and Winter Soldier have actually met before. Well, she's cleaning the house and he just pumps into the house. And
He just pumps.
Pumps into the house.
What's that even?
Wow.
Then why did Pierce
That's
shoot
such an interesting Taylor word choice.
Then why did Pierce shoot
Pumps
her?
into the house.
well, this is the first time he actually caught, both of them.
Oh
together.
god! So they have the secret like romance almost.
Now
I
that's the
can't
storyline
have
I
her, no
wanna
one
see.
can.
MCU breaking barriers here.
It's totally Rosita.
I think she's probably just gonna get like Renata. It's Renata.
Renata.
Yeah, it's not totally
Rosita.
Rosita.
I think Rosita's like a name that anyone's ever had.
It's
that a-
definitely a name someone's had.
Is that a real name?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
Rosita.
Rosita.
Yeah.
I've definitely heard it.
I mean, it sounds like a culmination of like sounds that could make a name, but
What sounds of which names?
like because it has Rosie and then like Ita, So you're combining two.
Is Ita a name?
Well, it's the end of like other names, like ones that I can't think of. But I think it, that's a fair. Anyway,
I understand where you're getting at.
I don't, so that's good for you. Must be nice.
I feel like she definitely got killed in that scene, and but as a character, as a villain, I think he's definitely not the worst. He's definitely not the best. I think it's all comes down to a point of view. I think that's what makes or breaks a villain in these movies. How well they're willing to believe in their point of view and how far they're willing to take it. And it was cool because I think they really put a lot of that weight onto Nick Cage because his character the whole time was the one. What? What?
Put the weight on you.
Shut up. What the hell are they on Nick Cage for?
Captain America. Let's say I actually want a version of this
Ghost
movie.
Rider shows up in this movie.
I'm here to recruit you on my team. No, I'm not in the Avengers. I'm not joining you. I'm not joining the Ghost Riders. No, there's a part of this movie that I wish that Nick Cage plays Winter Soldier. Just because I'd love to see
One
like
scene.
the hair. No, like the whole movie, but then when he takes the mask off, it's Sebastian Stan as Bucky.
Yes.
I can't believe I casually just dropped that.
Yeah.
I just,
That's not that surprising.
I meant to say
No.
Nick Fury. God damn it. Okay, all the weight they put on Nick Fury with it being his idea that he was spearheading to get the 3 helicarriers in the air, and really it was just Pierce just playing the innocent role, and he even played the council too. The council was ridiculous in this movie. They're trying to come off as if they know what's going on. The one guy's like, he used your friendship against you, and he's just standing there like, you guys are a bunch of idiots. This is what I want you to do. And the guy's like, we made a decision. He's like, I'll resign. He's like, no, we made a decision. We're gonna reactivate the helicarrier program. He's like, okay. And I mean, that's what happens. I mean, it's just the council is so stupid. Most of them died because they're useless. And
They are, and we talked about this in the Avengers retrospective. I was happy that this was the end for this like shady council or whatever, because these are the guys that's like in the Avengers are just like blocked off, and like this whole idea, like there's a few things in this movie and in Iron Man 3 and even in what else? I feel like in Avengers 2, which we'll get to, and I have notes for this movie. I feel like you can feel there's a difference between the way MCU was going and the way they thought they might go. Because I don't know, like this whole council thing is something that I felt like they were like, I don't know if they had plans for it, but just felt like in Avengers, the first movie, it's just such this big, like this honest council. And then it's just gone so quickly.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of Iron Man 3 and the suit things, and it reminds me very much of like Nick Fury's end in this movie. Like, he has this big dramatic scene where he burns his eye patch and he kind of gives up everything. But next time we see him in Avengers, he's at Hawkeye's place with the eye patch and he's still doing Nick Fury stuff. So it's like, it feels like there was a clear, because there was a divide after Avengers 2. Feige and Ike Perlmutter, they divided. And I don't know if that was part of it, where it's like a kind of a yin and the yang. Like, we'll talk about
in
that.
terms of like what direction the movie's
Well,
going.
yeah, and we'll talk about Avengers 2. There's a few things, and I think those hurt the movie. A few things of scenes where it's like, well, why is that in there, and why is that in there? Because, like, yeah, we'll talk about it when we get there, but I feel like this movie has a couple of those, like, remnants of the, not the old MCU, but just a path that it was maybe going, where I don't think we took a huge detour. I think the plan was always to get to Thanos and maybe do Civil War, but just a few story beats, I think. Like, the Nick Fury thing is super weird. Like, he has a super dramatic thing. Even Black Widow, okay, she has this big thing with the board meeting, and then she just, like, she they say like, where are you gonna go? And she's like, I don't know. Well, when Avengers 2 starts, she's just with the Avengers. So it's like same thing as Cap.
Yeah.
Like Cap and Falcon are gonna go on this mission, but like really when we pick up, it's like no, we're all together. Like it feels some of the stuff feels not meaningless, but it doesn't really wasn't followed up. And some stuff like the Council, I'm glad, you know. But other stuff, it's kind of weird watching it back, you know. Which I think for 80% of the MCU, it's all flawless. But I think there's a few things you can look at. Oh, that didn't.
It seemed it's now that you mentioned that, I didn't know that was something happening back then. But it makes sense that like the ending of this movie in particular, like you mentioned, all those characters kind of had like ambiguous endings. At least none of it's really breaking the MCU. Like obviously you can assume that Falcon and Cap still went on like some mission and did something and ended up back with the Avengers, but there definitely is like one piece of the puzzle there that's missing. So
yeah,
that is an interesting point. But
do we have any other big story? Nick Fury, I think he's good in this movie, but he's just kind of there to be a plot device for revenge and to set up the the Avenger. But I think Sam Jackson, he's just always good.
I'll agree, but I like that they gave him that action scene. So
yeah,
just cool to see. I mean, I wouldn't want a Nick Fury action scene in every movie, and I'm not really hoping for one in Infinity War necessarily, but it's cool to have in a movie like this.
And the comedy in that was used well. I think I liked the car talking to him and everything like that. And I liked his scenes with Pierce as well. They did a good job making it feel like they actually did have like history together and whatnot. So
business past.
Yeah, Sam Jackson's always good. I'm sure. Do you have anything to add on Nick Cage?
Nick Cage?
He brought the heat.
He did.
Yeah.
Skull form. I like that segment of the movie you briefly mentioned to Taylor where Black Widow and Cap are in that airport. And I love that their like casual outfits are like kind of cheesy. Like he just has like the glasses on. And they're like pretending to be a couple. And then I love that scene when they're just like driving down the highway all casual and just having nice conversations. Then they go to Cap's old army base and he's kind of having some reminiscent memories. I just like that whole segment of the movie. We already talked about how those two are really good together, but that section in particular, because it kind of felt like a step back from like the superhero stuff for a bit. Like obviously there's like some, they're sneaking around, there's guys after them, but it still feels like just like casual interactions between those two characters. And it's fun to see. And then I like that it leads right into the like reveal of Zolo's program, or I guess you'd call it a program. His AI, his machine, his algorithm.
Big Saw shout out to
Big Saw.
That's one. So here's another thing. Here's just a fun like what if, or like a question. Not a what if. What the fuck? Question. So Cap has this list of movies and music and TV shows he has to see, right? And like on one of those is Star Wars. That's not crossed off yet, right?
No, it was crossed and Star Trek was written next.
Oh, right. So it's just like what Disney's gonna buy next, probably. That's really what that list is. But the thing is. So there's a lot of stuff on that list when I thought back to it, and I can't think about it as right now. But when I saw the movie,
I did like pause and look at it, and like nothing really stuck out too much.
Okay, nothing. Well, no. To me, there was stuff that stuck out, but for me, it was here's a question I'm gonna pose to you, and both of you can answer this. What situation or what frame of mind? How did Captain America end up watching the first Saw? I'm not gonna assume that he's done a dive deep and watched them all because she says you want to play a game and it's from like a popular machine. He's like, I saw it. So I'm gonna assume that he watched Saw. How did Captain America end up watching Saw?
Well, it's obvious he was watching the Geek First podcast and he saw that we are doing a retrospective on it.
This is 2014.
That's one possibility. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he thought it would be an important way to learn about like some torture methods that he could use on like bad guys in the future. So he said, this movie, maybe he thought it was like a documentary, on like how to conduct a proper torture / interrogation. And so I really have nothing. I don't know. I ended up watching that.
Because I thought
it was because that next to Star Wars is like, oh wow, that's quite a comparison there.
I'm watching all the Star Wars and then all the Saws.
Oh man, this gives me hope that Hoffman might show up. Hoffman versus Cap, the villain of Captain America.
Where was it on the list?
What was Saw? It wasn't. He just said I watched it, so I was surprised that he had watched Saw maybe above some of this other stuff on the list that people are saying you have to do this. Where Saw, like I said, like it just feels like that's not Cap's genre.
Well, do you think maybe he was watching it with another Avenger? Like who else? Who you have to pick one? What Avenger will you pick that like shows him?
Hawkeye.
You think Hawkeye?
Yeah, because I think Downey for some reason, like Tony, it's just kind of like it's. I feel like Tony just doesn't watch movies, so that's one. I think that's a little too stressful for Bruce Banner, so you don't want to do that. And obviously it's not Black Widow because she's saying that joke. And then who else do we got? Thor's not. Thor. I don't think Thor. Yeah, I don't think
that would be a fun post-credit scene.
I don't think he's
just like it's the length of the movie. It's just a commentary track.
That'd be so fun. Them in character though. So.
Yeah.
Like, it's either Hawkeye or Fury.
I think it's Fury.
And
Fury more than...
And I just feel like they don't hang out that much, as he was super shocked that he was in his house. So I feel like Hawkeye could just be on his iPad, like, oh, come over here, Cap.
Yeah,
Falcon. Do you think Falcon would show that?
They didn't know
each other yet,
But
right?
Hawkeye is, he's a family man. He's got the kids and the wife. He's not going to waste his time watching Saw, you know?
But he wasn't always a family man.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a time when he was a bachelor.
And maybe
I don't know if Saw existed at that point, but maybe
that's what it did, yeah.
How old are his kids? Someone could probably do the math on this and actually determine. Why do you think it's Fury, though?
I think, from Fury's story alone, he's like in the elevator and he's like, yeah, my granddaddy used to get a roll of $1 bills, working his job, and he'd walk down the street saying, how you doing? And people would be like, good, have a good one. And then the street got, as the years progressed, a little bit shadier, and he'd keep on walking, and he'd be like, hey, how's it going? The guys would be like, keep on stepping. And it got to the point where he felt a little uncomfortable. And so he was telling Captain America, like, then my granddaddy, to counteract this, one guy asked, he's like, hey, what's in the bag? And he opened it up, and he had a bunch of the $1 rolls and a loaded .22 Magnum. And, I feel like that story alone is straight up, Saw activity right there.
I thought you were going to somehow segue that into, like, you would make up a part of dialogue where he actually mentions the Saw movies, but that's interesting. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you. I can't think of anyone who would be watching Saw.
I think my theory is better. I think Hawkeye's just sitting around, but that's me.
Hawkeye.
Yep.
Maybe Peggy Carter watches it. In the hospital all day, what is she always doing? Watch some movies. He shows up one day, she's just watching Saw.
Oh, God.
Oh, well, I love her, so I'm going to watch it with her. Man, that would just...
That'd be difficult to watch. I mean, there's so many twists that happen in those movies that it'd be hard to keep track for someone with a memory of hers,
Yeah, I just love that. I just like, hey, I'm so happy to see you. He walks in the hospital, and she's there watching Saw. Yikes.
Oh, good times.
I have some notes, but do we have any other big...
Well, Taylor said the word elevator. Remind me of the elevator scene.
Great
yes.
Does anyone want to get off?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that line.
Really good suspense and build up. I was just looking around the room, and like the one guy's like sweating a little bit, and then one guy has like his hand on his gun.
Yeah.
They tackled that perfectly. To take down Captain America, they put his friends, people that he's worked with and trusts, in first. They didn't just drop the three goons at the end.
Yeah.
Or at the beginning. They
put Crossbones
They put in his friends that he's worked with, and then they put in casuals that you wouldn't suspect. They're just talking amongst each other with suitcases. Yeah. And then they sent in the heavy.
The big guns.
And they did jack shit. So, just to see that, when it put that outside, like, screen really quick and zoomed in, you could see like all 10 guys holding him down, and he was a badass, and I think that's one of my favorite scenes.
Like magnetic cuff that like stuck
magnetic cuff. Yeah, I think it's an amazing line in this movie when he's like, before we start, does anyone want to get off?
I just did that. You can't do it again.
Or no, he says
it's such a good line. It deserves to be said twice. I'm not gonna say.
He totally says it differently though. He says
he doesn't. He
says
yeah, Travis, you're wrong.
He
watch
says
the movie.
Does anyone want out?
Does anyone want to get off?
He says, does anyone want out?
Does anyone want out?
Okay, guys, it's the same thing. Who cares?
He's gonna look it up.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, it's totally. Does anyone want out? Does anyone want to get out?
And the end of that too, how he just
now you're saying
he takes a flying leap out of that elevator because Captain America. Obviously, he's got superpowers. He's got like super strength and stuff, but that's still like a massive jump for him to take to just land on
and then he
go through glass and then land right on some concrete. So
and then he takes that big ship on by himself too later on, like with the motorcycle and.
Yes. Yeah, on the bridge scene.
It's a big one.
Well, that leads me to another scene I got to bring up.
What scene is that?
Here we go.
We're doing some.
It's coming.
Oh, he just said it.
Oh!
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out? So Taylor, ding ding ding, you are the champion.
I can't believe it.
What did Captain America say in the elevator? Congratulations, you win this DVD. That's already yours.
Really? It's actually a Blu-ray 3D digital HD copy.
I'm so sorry.
There's no DVD, and I'm very upset about that.
Sorry.
They really conned me out. What do you guys think of the scene?
What scene?
We just said it was great.
I thought you were gonna go more in depth. Okay, so
There's only so much you can say.
I have to say, I think
that face is still messing with me, man. That like.
It reminds me of Kirkland for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, I can see Kirkland's face in that.
I would say if this reminded me of one person that it does not remind me of, I don't know where I'm going. Go ahead, Taylor.
That scene where they go through the whole like system of like having all the 3 helicarriers blow up, which I think is a waste. They should have just hijacked the helicarriers because that's a waste of resources. They could have used them. You know, they're gonna need them against Thanos. Completely waste.
They like to destroy things. They say they don't, but like they love. There's a small part of them that love seeing Sokovia just fall and just get destroyed into rubble. They're like, fuck yeah,
we're the
badass.
Avengers.
How many people can cause that kind of thing?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was a waste of resources. They could have used those 3 helicarriers. Good intentions, but I think that. The fact that they blew each other up over frickin' a city where there's kids playing in schools and these things are getting
Sometimes
blown
sacrifices
out.
need to be made.
Yeah, but Captain America didn't want all these people to get targeted and killed. Like he said, he just killed a bunch, and we know it kills people because General Ross shows the footage in Civil War of these things falling, killing people.
Captain America's a piece of shit murderer.
Sometimes,
he's even worse than Batman. Actually.
Sometimes a few kids' lives are worth $1 million.
Shoutouts to our Tomb Raider review. If you want to understand this psychotic laughter,
oh my god.
Tomb Raider.
Holy crap.
Do you got any notes over there? Because like I said, I have main story points. I think I'm done.
I mean, what is the Stanley cameo in this movie? He's a security guard at the museum. Is that when? That's when Bucky goes there.
No.
It's when he steals the uniform.
Cap steals his old school uniform.
Oh right, and then it's just a scene of him, and he's like, I'm totally getting fired.
Yeah, something like that.
But apparently, that's my Stan Lee voice.
It's a good little cameo.
I'm kind of disappointed by these cameos. Upon watching them, like I feel like
I
had like fond memories of, oh man, there's so many great ones. But really, I think more often than not, they're a little bit lackluster.
Well, and sometimes I feel like they're better in the non-MCU ones too. Like, still the best Stanley cameo is
the library.
Is the library, and that's Amazing Spider-Man. That's not saying anything special. Yeah,
different universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what is the other the post-credit scene? Oh, there's 2 for this one, right? One of them being Bucky going back to the museum, which is cool to see.
Yeah.
And then the other one is introduction of, a little teaser at Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver and their existence.
Yeah. I
with,
actually forgot
that
about
same guy.
Baron von Strucker.
Barebone Structure?
Baron von Strucker.
Baron von Strucker.
Yeah, he's a big villain who does not do much in Avengers 2. But I forgot that they were introduced I watched the movie obviously and I saw this again, but even then I forgot when you brought it up. I'm like, right, that was the first. Like I forgot this is where they're introduced.
It looked like a different actor for Quicksilver.
He has a different look, and it feels a little out of. I don't know. It feels semi out of place in this movie because we don't know any. Like we don't know.
I'm trying to think. So it goes then Guardians, and then
Avengers.
And then Avengers 2 is right after that.
I think the problem is because with most post-credit scenes, we know one character. We didn't know anybody in the scene, so that's where, for me, it feels completely random. It's just like, we need to get this out here before Avengers 2, which that's fine. That's what the post-credits are for, but watching it back...
It makes more sense to have it here than Guardians.
Where I feel like there's certain post-credit scenes where I really think about it and I go, oh, I tied to that movie, like I tied that. This one, I forgot it was there. And I think because it has no ties to the Winter Soldier movie at all, like, even if they talked about, like, somehow they, like... Hydra was working on other experiments. Like, some point in the movie, they don't really. They just kind of talk about, hey, Bucky, he's a ghost. Like, he goes around killing people. I can't wear bikini, stuff like that. Like, they just talk about Bucky as like this main thing they've done. If they would have hinted at, oh, there's other things that Hydra is working on or experimenting on, but they don't. Agree. So they're just like, oh, and by the way, they also have these 2 fucked up twins, and they're gonna
more heroes.
Yeah, and they're gonna cause. Yeah.
But they didn't really know that Winter Soldier was really Hydra at this point, did they? I mean, I thought they were...
No, but I mean, like, the screenwriters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They know everything.
Yeah, not like the people that wrote it.
They should know everything.
Yeah.
I would expect. I have one quick quote that I think is worth mentioning. It's one of those scenes when Widow's trying to set up Captain America, and she says, what, you got any plans for, Saturday night? And he's like, well, everyone in my barbershop quartet is dead, so not really.
Yeah.
Good quote.
What about that girl from accounting? And he's like, oh, like Lisa, the one with the tattoo? And he's like, or the piercing? Not ready for that.
Not ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comedy
Panther.
in this movie, I think, is done very well, and this to me,
Used sparingly, but
yeah, it's used
to its
fairly, and
benefit.
this is why I also think another reason why I favored over a lot of MCU movies, which is funny because I love the MCU as like I think it's the best franchise ever created. But like I always like their non like really comedic movies just a bit more because I like things like this in Civil War where there's comedy in there but there's a lot more dramatic tension going on, and this whole movie, yeah, there's stuff that breaks tension but it feels super dramatic for the
Yeah.
most part. It feels like that like Black Panther, like OG Iron Man type of vibe, and I always like these ones. I always give them a bit more preference, like Black Panther that just came out. I said Black Panther. Incredible Hulk. I know
You clearly like Black Panther.
yeah, I know Dill's not gonna give me Incredible Hulk, but I like that type of tone, you know. So
Cool.
Yeah.
That depletes all my notes for this particular film.
let's see. Yeah, I love the Fury apartment scene. We talked about that, but just in the sense of just how they were talking back and forth, not for the comedic reason you brought up, but good on you.
Thanks,
I hate the line. No one will probably understand it when the guy who's the Shield agent, he's bald, and they interrogate him by hanging over the roof.
Oh yeah.
In the first movie, when he's a good guy, he's like talking to the bad guys, like Shield doesn't negotiate with terrorists, and then like he gets shot, and then he's just like, I told you, Shield doesn't negotiate.
Yeah.
Hate that line. It's so
Very cringy.
It's so even the take was so cringy.
Well, that character, like, he just never feels intimidating or anything, so it's
He doesn't feel like anything. He just feels like he's just there.
a waste of space. Poor guy.
When Sharon Carter and him see each other Cap see each other for the first time when he knows he's an agent, she's just like Captain Rogers. He's like neighbor, and he just like steamrolls and keeps walking right past her.
Steamrolls.
Great. It's great when you see Cap a little sassy and mad. So
Real sassy and mad.
yeah, I think that. Let's see. Yeah, lots of intense scenes, which I think, like I said, Cap and Black Widow, and they're having some arguments and whatnot. But I think I gotta shout out the very first Winter Soldier Captain America fight scene. I think it's great. Before he doesn't know it's Bucky, when Bucky's like about to cure ScarJo, and then
Cure ScarJo.
Cure ScarJo. When he just comes out with a shield and everything like that. But they have like a good solid 5-minute fight scene, and I love like when you have the main villain, the main good guy go at it. I've said this on all casts, especially final fights. That's why I like the final fight in this one. But they're just going at it, they're throwing the car. There's one moment where he's doing some army stuff. He throws the knife and he catches with the other hand. And I love this moment. He goes to stab Cap and Cap stops him. But then you hear like his arm like shift and like gears. And like he goes quicker and then it gears again. And then it goes all the way up in the car. And he's like holding
Scratching
it.
the car,
It's so well done. Like I think the action, that's why like I still like Bucky, but man, I miss like Winter Soldier Bucky because he's just like a beast, you know. Where like you know, like Bucky now just feels like
primal rage.
yeah. Now he just feels like he's a guy who can fight and he has a metal arm. He does though, right? I think in Civil War he's just fighting. He doesn't feel like you get those shades of it, but like when he is in this mode and he just even looks bigger and yeah, I love that fight scene.
That whole scene's cool because obviously Falcon and Widow are there as well, and they all just kind of get split up at the start, and so they're you kind of get to all see them like somewhat teaming up a little bit, but they're still like doing their own thing. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
I think
I guess we didn't really mention like the final battle scene a whole lot either, but yeah, like just the moment when Captain America like throws his shield down and he says, "I'm not gonna fight you," and Bucky just continues like punching him in the face, but he obviously gets through to him in the end. And Bucky like
I'm with you. To
jumps
the end of the line.
down to save him from drowning in the lake.
Yeah, and I love that scene with the score. Cap hits the water. You just see Bucky's hand. It's fantastic, and Bucky doesn't know what's going on really. So
He's sort of he's starting to get an inkling.
He's still confused. Like I do love when you just see him start. Like he starts to maybe remember his name or things like
You
that.
feel
like,
bad for him, right?
Yeah.
His mind is just a bunch of scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about the end scene with the twins?
I feel like
The end credit scene.
didn't we talk about that?
Were you sleeping when we talked about that?
Were you guys talking about that?
Wow. Because this is when you were like, oh, well, you brought up, you're like, well, they didn't know Winter Soldier was Hydra, and that's where we talked about, like, the writing and how they should have maybe mentioned that there's other experiments going on and stuff.
Oh, I didn't know you were talking about the other experiments cover the twins.
I think it's a fine scene. They're just doing their powers. Like, that.
okay.
There's no, it's just an intro scene.
How about the other scene?
It's a good scene. It's an alright scene of Bucky just walking around the museum. What did you think about these scenes? Because you're just bringing them up in very
We
awkward
already
ways.
talked about
Yeah,
both
I
of them.
feel like we did, but...
We talked about Bucky being at the Smithsonian?
Yeah. Well, I didn't say the word Smithsonian,
Oh, okay.
but I said he's at the museum and he's walking around. Where were you?
Yeah.
I was right here.
Well, give us your thoughts.
I
It
think
wasn't
the scene with the twins, I thought that was very, very cool. It definitely sets up the pace for Age of Ultron. It's funny how they didn't actually, they were using the spear just to kind of build weapons, but didn't know that there's actually Infinity Stone inside. They could have had a lot more fun if they actually popped it open, but that's okay. I definitely think, you know, it was cool to see the twins kind of tweaking out and kind of embracing their powers. It definitely kind of rewrites the storyline of how, okay, Magneto doesn't exist in this universe because they just gave these two...
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah, but do you think Magneto was the parent that got blown up by the Stark bomb in Sokovia?
No, now we're getting down the rat hole, but if they choose to rewrite it, I would just feel Magneto was their natural parents and they just ended up with these Sokovian parents or something like that, and maybe that's how they could get these powers because they had a mutant gene to play around with, right? I think there is a lot of wiggle room there. Like, people bring up that parents bomb thing, but it's like it's pretty easy to fix, you know, and who cares? Quicksilver's already dead, so
that would be quite a while down the road. I'm sure a lot of people would forget about it anyway.
Yeah, I think the
throwaway comment.
The end scene though with Bucky checking out the joint, I think that's pretty it's a pretty cool idea. I mean,
I don't think anyone in history has ever referred to a museum as a joint.
A joint? You know, the cool kids go to the Muse and hang out.
I thought they went to the joint.
The Muse.
The Muse. Yeah.
Do we have anything else to shout out about this movie before we get to final thoughts?
You know, aside from it's just like serious plot holes, is how Captain America got in the vending machine.
Oh no,
I mean, why he was so gullible in this movie. I mean, the fact that he just got conned by S.H.I.E.L.D. to begin with, all these secrets, just goes to show how gullible he is. I definitely have to say, like, piggybacking on what you said earlier about the whole scene when they're like, pretend that he's got the glasses on and everything. When that guy, what is his name, like Aaron or Jeremy or whoever approaches him, you're like, hey, where are you guys going? He's like, New Jersey. He's like, cool, well, if you need anything, I can't remember what he says, but it's
I've
really
been
funny.
Aaron.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. That's exactly what he says. That is great.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And you knew his name too.
I think it is Aaron.
I think it is
Only
Aaron.
because you said Aaron or Jeremy, and I thought Aaron seemed more correct out of those two.
Yeah, definitely Aaron. Yeah.
Shouts to Aaron. Is that is your final point there, Taylor?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll give it a 9 out of 10. I feel like for me,
Wow,
yeah.
just drops the 9.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy the movie. I think it's a very strongly made movie. Like I said, I get more appreciation for it every time I watch it. Yeah, and I think this was a movie that I started to realize when I was getting into more like critique as far as a movie. This is like the year before we started doing the podcast, which is funny enough if you think about that. When I watched My Shoulder, didn't even know you two, so it's kind of weird when you think about that.
I knew you though.
I can't. I don't know. You got me there. Dylan really knew me, but
threw you off.
Totally threw off.
So
there.
for me, this is something that I say on podcasts now, that a movie being predictable is not always a bad thing. For me, it does still hamper my excitement sometimes, or my love of that movie, because I love being shocked. I love being, taken on a ride. But at the same time, sometimes it is good to be predictable, because that makes the best story sense. It does make the sense, hey, usually you go from A to B. And you know what? If we're going to go to A to B, it should be a very well-made movie. And that's what I think this is. I think my cons are, like I said, Falcon for me, I think it's just kind of all right. I don't think he's needed in this movie. I think it pays off later on because it works. You have as another friend and a confidant of Cap, so it did pay off, I think. But in this movie, for me, I'm kind of always like a little sleep at the wheel sometimes when he's doing his Falcon stuff, and because I think he's very similar to Black. I think he's a little bit better than Black Widow. I think he is better than Black Widow and Iron Man, but I feel it's similar to that, where it's just like we got to shoehorn him in, and he's a new part of the team. And yeah, so 9 out of 10 for me.
I think that this movie, as far as I said at the beginning, now we're at the end, so I'm going to talk about comparison to the first Captain America. I like this one more. If we're going to look at superhero movies that take place back in the olden days, Wonder Woman would have the scoop over Captain America 1 for me. But I mean, the scoop, yes. This one, obviously, I feel like I love the modernized Captain America. I feel like, he's learned so many new fighting moves. He's a complete badass, and he's not one to be messed around with. He just... All the scenes with the Winter Soldier were fantastic. When he just... encounters Captain America the first time and grabs his shield and throws the shield back, I mean, there's like a huge nod, like, okay, here's your replacement to Chris Evans. Like, I mean, it's just
Just name drops him hard. Like you know him.
I think that all the different developments and point of views of the characters and all their incorporations, I think it was awesome, and the humor didn't even overdo it for me, and I don't know, just all around I feel like it was a much needed movie that tackled so much, and as much as I hate to see S.H.I.E.L.D. brought down to their knees and just like killed off, I definitely think, you know, it's a good setup for where the franchise had to go, actually, and it was a great way to incorporate S.H.I.E.L.D. or Hydra still into the storyline and everything. One thing I forgot to mention before is I got a kick out of the fact that Agent Hill was applying for Stark Industries Human Resources. I don't know
I
what
kind of
that.
forgot she was in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know what that entails, but I think it's
And-
really funny.
That's just a code name.
Yeah, and then I don't know, like in Avengers 2, she's not really doing anything, so I don't.
She didn't
really-
get the job.
Wow.
Or maybe she did get the job, and that's why.
Maybe.
That's why she's not around.
Yeah, but I'd have to say I'd probably give this. I would give it 8 out of 10 French terrorists.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting
French terrorists.
interesting scale. Yeah, as for myself, if I look at this as a trilogy, MCU obviously has a few of those now. I think this one is the biggest improvement from the first. You know, you look at Thor. I think one thing to mention actually in Thor is that, you know, Chris Hemsworth got so much better at playing the role of Thor, but the rest of the movie was kind of muddled down and not as good. Whereas this movie, it's a much better movie than the first, and Chris Evans is like really owning that role now. And then even, you know, Iron Man 2 as well, like that feels like, obviously Robert Downey's really good in that as well, but the movie as a whole feels kind of brings it down a bit. So as a second movie of the trilogy in the MCU, definitely a success, and then obviously it just leads right into Civil War, which is, you know, probably might still be my favorite of the MCU movies. If not, it's easily in the top 3. So yeah, overall, obviously, as you heard, I had like there's a few things that on a rewatch aren't as exciting for me, but still this movie really does establish that connection between Cap and Bucky. Really does that well, and then Black Widow as well. Since it's not Avengers and, you know, more screen time is available for her, I think they really nailed that aspect of it. And then I like the introduction of Falcon. I think he's a fun character. Yes, he doesn't have a whole lot of depth in this movie necessarily, but I think he's still a fun introduction. Yeah, I'm excited to, you know, keep moving on with this MCU stuff. This one is a fun one to talk about for sure.
Since you said you're excited about Falcon, just thought I'd mention his catchphrase was "cut the check," and you can explore the meaning of his now infamous quote.
Cut the check.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever said that in the
It
MCU.
says his enthusiasm was contagious, and so was his catchphrase, "cut the check."
Oh, because that's what the actor says after he like pops off in a scene. He's like, "Hey, cut the check. You know, I'm ready. Give me my money." I'm killing it as this Falcon character.
Are you not
Cut
getting
the
it?
check. That's not a thing. Like he's never said that once.
MCU cast, cut the check, it's a gag rest. So apparently it is something he's saying though, like on like on set.
Yeah,
So it's like
okay.
it's an in joke. It's like us with the fucking Tomb Raider guy. Like it's not that funny to everyone else, but for them, cut the check is like fuck. Anthony
Enough to
Mackie.
put on the
featurette.
back of this movie. You know, that's pretty bold.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I guess they couldn't think of anything else to sell Falcon on in the back cover of the movie. So they instead
They didn't even name drop him. They're like, from the studio that brought you Marvel's The Avengers comes an epic new adventure that teams Captain America, Chris Evans, with the Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, and the Falcon to battle unexpected.
Oh, is his name on the front? On the? No, it's not.
No. Alexander
Okay,
Pierce
you know what?
gets in
I
there.
think that's fair. Like he doesn't have that big of a role. I still feel like he maybe should have got a name on there.
Was his
You know,
name
he's an
on,
Avenger now, ish.
Was it on Civil
Now
War?
though. Yeah.
Civil War, I don't know. That one's hard to say because there's so many other names that you gotta put above him, right?
That's true. He was in
I mean,
Age
how many
of
names-
Ultron, right? Or was he not? I can't remember.
Who?
Falcon?
Yeah.
For a few moments, yeah.
He's certainly in it at some point.
What moments were those again?
We'll get there.
We'll get there when we
soon
review the
enough.
movie.
2 movies away. 2 movies
Okay.
away.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
Taylorfield sometimes, you know? Taylor,
We're trying to make this not awkward, you know.
Taylorfield, where can they find us and all the other Marvel retrospectives of the past, present, and future?
Well, once you've exposed all of your secrets and shields, you can tune in.
Count on Taylor to talk about exposing himself.
Well, not myself.
Well,
Just you can go your internet connection, ladies and gentlemen. That amazing, pumping internet connection. Let me tell you. So with the internet connection, you got to go onto Google. On Google, you're gonna type in Facebook in the search bar or the address bar. Either or will get you the same place. One may be quicker than the other. Do the quicker way or not. So when you get to the Facebook, you're gonna go into the search bar. You're gonna type in Geek vs. Space podcast. You're gonna do space, not space, the word, because I don't know where that goes. And you're gonna find this awesome page in this news feed. It's gonna be totally lit, hype, totally just on
I don't
the hook.
condone using the word lit
Yeah.
to describe our page.
Really?
What did you just become?
Not someone who uses lit.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. If you want to support us, head over to Patreon because you can get these episodes early. You get Gauntlet, Spider-Man Retrospective, lots of good stuff. $1 level, $5 level, there's lots of good content out there for you. If you can't support us that way, please head over to one of our pages, whether YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher Radio. Give us a like, give us a subscription, give us a review. Tell us what you thought about this movie. What did you think about Adrian Pierce? Adrian, oh no, I'm doing what he's doing. It was Alex Pierce,
Alex
right?
Kensington.
Alex Kensington.
Who cares?
Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a
marvelous
day.
Marvelous
Have
day.
a marvelous day.
And we'll catch you in the post-credits scene.
Wow, he really did. He did that really quick.
Because I think we just got to do it, you know?
Yeah, but I was just waiting for us all to get sick here.
But
Try
you
it
went
again.
time.
Try it
You
again.
went day.
Have a
Have a
marvelous
marvelous
day.
day.
We'll
And
catch you in the
post-credits
post-credits
scene.
Cut the check.
Cut the check. That's our new sign out.
I give it one life for a million.
Cool.
He's got like I'm glad like as far as that hairstyle goes, Bucky didn't like have the 1 in a million hairstyle look, you know?
The fake wig, you mean?
Yeah, fake wig.
Oh yeah, that's what it's a 1 in a million.
He grew it up.
That's what a fake wig is now called. Cut the check. You didn't answer.
I'm ready.
I
to go
did.
to-
It's on recording. I did say yes. I'd love some water.
Did you?
Yeah,
I didn't
listen
hear
to
that,
it.
but
Listen to it.
I don't think.
afterwards.
Did you whisper or something?
No.
Are you
I
gonna
don't
hack
think
in
I
my
did.
computer and drop in like a sound clip of you saying? Yeah. I love water.
You are a skilled man.
Which theater is it though?
The reclining one.
Plaza? They probably put in the small theater because they know nobody was gonna go see it.
I think it's actually the biggest theater.
Alright, Trump. Actually, it's the biggest theater in Kelowna.
Huge.
Oh, I'm trying to catch a dinosaur.
God.
Although I don't know if there's any dinosaurs.
How do you
around.
manage that and Pokemon Go at the same time?
You know, it's a very hard lifestyle.
I could imagine.
All right. Ready to slay some cast?
Oh yeah. Can you look at the camera and see that how I'm doing in there?
Yeah, your left arm.
It's always the fucking left arm.
Well,
man.
what else would it
Well,
be?
you sit down. I don't know. The right leg? No.